So good morning and hello again to those that were here a minute ago when I turned up and said hello the first time around, and hello to everybody that's joined us since. So welcome to the launch party, hence the hat, and I also have a party blower as well, which I think it the old audio thing cuts out the noise. But anyway, I did make a bit of an effort. So, welcome to the Tax Return Commitment Club launch party, where we're going to be sharing the two things that you should absolutely be doing now. We're going to look at the procrastination equation and how you can use that in order to get the tax returns done even quicker or quicker than you have ever before. And we're going to be sharing some of the ideas and the tools and the tips and the tricks that we're going to be using and sharing with the members of the Tax Return Commitment Club over the next whatever it is. What are we on? 11 minus 3. Maths is not my greatest thing. 8 months. 8 months through April through to November, and the processes and whatnot that we're going to take you through. If you have any observations or any points that you would like to share with the community, please pop them in the chat box. Feel free to use that as you like. If there are any Bounce members, and I say if there is, I know there are lots of Bounce members in the room as well. If you would like to share in the chat box about what you've got out of Bounce, then that would be great too, because we've got members or people from the community on the call today that are not currently members, and obviously they would love to hear. And I'm going to be sharing some of you as well. I see you're in here, Jeff. You're coming up a bit later on in the presentation as we go through. And as always, if you've got any questions that you would like me to answer, please pop them in the Q&A box. There'll be a box on your screen somewhere where you can do that, and pop it in the Q&A box, and I will gladly answer them if I've got time as we go through. And as I always say, I love stupid questions. So the stupider the question, generally speaking, the easier they are to answer. And obviously I can answer them. I'll deal with hard questions as well. But if you feel as though you've got a bit of a stupid question, then please ask it in the chat box, because I bet you bottom dollar there'll be somebody else on this webinar today that also has those same challenges. I'm also going to see how long I can cope with this hat, because it's cutting into the bottom of my beard, and cutting into the bottom of my beard, and it's playing up the beard a little bit. But anyway, we'll see how that progresses. Sharon, I want to know what the team will be doing in December and January when they're finished. Probably laying on a beach in the Maldives with you, Sharon. That's my advice anyway. But we'll see if we can get you there in between. Right, so let's get started before we spend too much time with me prattling on. So we have as I say, Tax Return Commitment Club. I better delete that and just get rid of that. Tax Return Commitment Club, and we are going to be focusing today around how that is going to work for the Bounce community. And those of you that are not part of the Bounce community, and therefore by default the Tax Return Commitment Club, there's obviously some value this morning and how you're going to use that and how you can start to work. And then there's, as I say, there's an opportunity for you to join that if you like. And our goal over the next 7 months, from April through to November, is to take you and your team from being like that around tax returns and having to file the tax returns to being in this position where you have at least 90% of the tax returns sent to your clients for signature. Okay, they're not going to be submitted to the tax return, but up until the end of November, the target is to get 90% of the tax returns that you've got to produce sent out to your customers. So we're going to have lots of happy people, and I'll share some of the stuff that we're going to be doing in order to make it a little bit more interesting for you and your teams. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to create a competition between the wider community, so the people that we know within the Facebook group, the WhatsApp group, and on LinkedIn. So the wider community, the connections that we've got that aren't currently a member of the Tax Return Commitment Club, either through Bounce or Evolution. And I want to create some tension. I want to create a bit of a game, a bit of a competition, because as you'll see, when we start talking about procrastination, one of the things that helps us or prevents us from getting stuff done is that it's a little bit boring, it's a little bit not exciting, and it will wait until tomorrow. So we're going to create a bit of a competition. And I would like to think that the Bounce members, because of the support and whatnot that we have got or going to give Mark and I and Michelle, we're going to have 3 people. It's going to be like having an extra team member on your team. but I'm passionate about helping the wider community. And we're going to be running a campaign. You're going to see it all over the place. You've probably already seen it, around leaving no one behind. So one of the things, and there was lots of the conversations in January, as there always are, with these gurus and people that should know better, saying how accountants are, it's got themselves to blame and blah, 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 blah. And if they'd just got their asses in gear a bit earlier or got started a bit earlier, then they wouldn't have had a problem. I don't want to do that. I don't want the Accountants Mastermind to be a part of that moaning, if you like, and I want to help and support, even if they're not customers, even if you're not a customer, you're not paying us any money, then we're going to help and support, and you'll see how we're going to share stuff in order to share resources and ideas, and we're going to nag you as well, share stuff in order to help the whole profession get rid of this being, well, I'm going to use a swear word again, but get rid of this doldrum stuff in January, when we should be, in my world, as a profession, helping our customers. They've come back, Christmas, new year, new goals, fresh start, financial impetus, etc. We should be starting them on their financial journey for the next year, rather than running around trying to file tax returns at 11:59 and moaning because some software company's not got the support line or the revenue website has gone down. So you'll see lots of leave no one behind in all of the material that we share. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to share the 2 things you absolutely must do before the 5th of April. It's not rocket science. It's very, very easy to do. Michelle's going to add it into Coach Accountable. For those of you that are Bounce or Evolution members, I'm going to talk about Coach Accountable a bit more in a moment. So the 2 things you must absolutely do, how we can help stop you from procrastinating. And as you see in this picture, they're on the phones, and I think the phone's smoking. It's being used that much. But understand why we and our clients leave everything until the last minute. Now, that's a sweeping generalization. I know lots of people don't, but with tax returns, one of the reasons why we're running around in December and January is because people leave stuff at the last minute. So it's how you can get motivated, how your team can get motivated, and most importantly, how you can motivate your customers to deliver the information that you actually want when you want it, in a way that you want it. So how we can diminish as much as possible the procrastination. And then, as I say, we're going to look at how Tax Return Commitment Club, TRCC, is going to help you have Christmas off and a more relaxing January, if that's what you want. If you want a more exciting and a more passionate January, then you are more than welcome to do that. Yes, Susan, the slides after today, you can have them, and you'll also get the recording, as Mark says. But yeah, you'll get anything that you want, Susan, as a member of Bounce. I will send them through. And fundamentally, today, I'm also going to share with you how one simple step as to how you can get your customers submitting information to you. So whenever we talk to people, accountants, about what the biggest problem of getting tax returns done on time, they always come back and say, we can't get the information out of our clients. Well, there's going to be a whole session. I think it's the 2nd session. It might be the 3rd session. I'll share that with you in a minute. There's a whole hour where we're going to talk about ideas, tools, tips, techniques, language patterns that you can use in order to get the information from your customers when it is that you want it. So I'm going to give you one idea today, but there's loads more that we've got to share. And we're also obviously going to give you the systems and the processes and the Word documents and the emails and the letters if you want them. And that, as I say, the scripts that you can use in order to get the information from your customers. So the 2 things, let's get straight into some content. The 2 things that I think that you should be doing now before the 5th of April, so you can hit the ground running in effectively, I think it's a fortnight today, is when the tax return season kicks off again in earnest. The first thing is to start planning now with dates in the diary. Okay, so I'm going to give you some dates today of some meetings that we're going to work on, and the way that we're going to work. But in my world, you should have a date in the diary, a time in the diary now, to sit down and work out exactly what it is that you're going to do. Now, that date might be the end of April, for example. You might have lots of subcontractors and you need to hit the ground running on the 6th of April, but you should be putting some time in the diary to start planning the process and how you're going to work. And you should also, if you've got a team, you should definitely have a team meeting to talk about what went wrong last time, what's going to go right this time, what you're going to do to improve it. Are the customers that you said you really wanted to fire in January, and now it's kind of, okay, we might keep them type scenario, is the stuff that you should be doing in order to make next year already better. So get some time in the diary. Definitely add the dates in the diary that I'm going to give you in a moment, but make sure that you've got the time in the diary to have a planning conversation with your team and work out what it is that you're going to do. It's an absolute no-brainer, that is, for me. Next up is I want you to know your numbers, okay? Now, it's incredibly easy to sit down and think, well, I've got all these tax returns to do. There's about 200, or there's about 90, or there's about 300, or whatever it is. Now, as soon as you have absolute number, and I know it will go up and down because you'll win new customers and you'll lose new customers, so you'll win new customers and lose the odd customer, but as soon as you have clarity over the number it is that you've got to do, 263, all of a sudden it becomes more tangible. Yeah. So, and one of the things I'm going to share with you in a minute, you're going to need to know your numbers, and I'm going to be chasing you, Mark's going to be chasing you to make sure that you know your numbers and therefore the percentages of tax returns that you've got to complete. So how many it actually is that you've got to complete. Now, I know for some of you that'll be really easy because it'll be pressing a button in Client Engager or Accountancy Manager or whatever it's called now, or Iris Practice Management or whatever, and that number will pop out. If that's the case, brilliant. Get your number, write it down somewhere so we're ready and set to go on the 6th of April. If it's not in a piece of practice management software, it's on an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is, then again, start the work now. You might need to put some time in the diary in order to do that, but start the work now. And so you've got an absolute number, and you can say to your team, I don't know, say it's 8 months between April through to November, and you've got 80 tax returns to do. That's 10 a month we've got to do, 2.5 a week. And all of a sudden it becomes, as I say, it becomes more tangible. So the two things that you absolutely must be doing now, in my opinion, is to make sure that you're planning the tax return season. You've got a time in the diary and reviewing what you did last time. And obviously, as Bounce members or members of the Tax Return Commitment Club, you need to put the dates in that I'm going to give you in a minute. And ultimately, you need to know your numbers. Now, I just want to go off slightly on a tangent. So knowing your numbers, I'm passionate, obviously, as an accountant, and no doubt you are too, passionate about people knowing and understanding their numbers. And our next event is all about knowing your numbers. It's 25th of June. It will take place at Kettering Park Hotel. As a Bounce member, they can come along. You can come along for free. You just pay for your accommodation if you want to join me for dinner. If you don't want to do that, you don't want to join Bounce, then you can come across. I think there's a £195 ticket. They go on sale next week. So check your inbox. Keep a lookout for that. But there's a whole load of stuff around knowing your numbers that we're going to talk about, one of which, again, I'm very passionate about. As an accountant, I was never told how to communicate numbers in a way that other people understand. And there's some research that I'm going to share with you on the day where it's something like 82% of the population believe a quarter is bigger than a third, because a quarter has got a 4 at the bottom. So they think a quarter is bigger than a third. That's how misunderstanding of numbers most people are. So we're going to go into all that sort of thing. Now, if you're a member of the Bounce community and Evolution community, you will have already received, hopefully today, you will have received a Tax Return Commitment Club progress chart. And that Tax Return Commitment Club progress chart looks a bit like and on the back you'll see it's got a little hook so you can hook it on the wall, or it's got a little stand so you can stand it on your desk, and you can be reminded of your numbers all of the time. You see, you're going to write the names in just there, and then the target for April is going to be to complete 11% of the tax returns that you've got to send out to your client's signature before the end of November, and then it's 22% by May, 33 by June. This is not difficult, is it? It's 11 times table. We can all work that out. And then at the end, just got to round it up because it would have been 88 and I'm 2% missing. So November's going to be a slightly busier month for members of the Tax Return Commitment Club because you've got that slightly, that extra 2%. But if we get there and you're doing it, then we'll take that in my mind. So this is all about knowing the numbers. As I say, you can pin this on the board so the team can see it. So you can track the numbers. Now, within the community, the Bounce community, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be asking them to write those in and take a photograph and publicize it. Yeah. Now, it works two ways. One, hopefully your numbers are good and we're going to be able to celebrate this as your success and we'll feel good about it and all the rest of it. And secondly, if you're completing these numbers and you're on time, when your customers see it, they'll think everybody else is completing their tax returns. with whoever it is, Jeff, Lucy, Sharon, whoever, and I need to be getting my information in order to help them achieve their targets. So go out there and share with your customers what it is that you're doing and why it is that you are doing it. One year at Greenstones, we had a competition between our clients. So we divided them in two. I think it was A to M or something like that. If they had a surname, that was group red. And then the ends upwards, well, they were group B. And every time they sent the tax return information in, it was the red car and the blue car had a race. It was the Milky Bar race. And every time we had a wall chart and we moved people along, and people were sending the information in because they wanted their team to win. Sounds silly, but it actually works. It creates some fun, as you'll see in a minute, within the procrastination equation. As you'll see in a minute, the more energy you can create, the more you can increase your expectations of something being done, the better. So that is basically knowing your numbers. Let me go back over to there. I think we've got 5 spare of those upstairs in the office at Greenstones. So all of the members of Bounce and Evolution will have had one of these, hopefully today or yesterday. When you join Bounce later, if you're one of the first 5, we'll send you one of these as well. And if, I suppose, lots of people join, then we can perhaps get some more printed for you as well. But it's a public recognition, a visual of you making progress. And I think ultimately it is brilliant. But then I would do, wouldn't I? So that's Tax Return Commitment Club and knowing your numbers in order to help you prevent, or one of the ways to help you prevent yourself from being demotivated and therefore procrastinating. So let's have a look at motivation. How are we going to motivate you and your customers in order to get those tax returns done in April, May, June, etc., rather than leaving it until December and January? Well, the best book I have ever read on procrastination and how to stop yourself from procrastinating is called The Procrastination Equation. Now, you don't need to go out and buy that book. You don't need to go and read it. It's quite a chunky book, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a brief outline of it today, but one of the meetings, I think it's the first meeting, the April meeting, I'm going to go through the procrastination equation, convert the content of that book into how that works from a tax return perspective, and then we're going to use those ideas in order to reduce the procrastination and increase your productivity around doing tax returns. So step 1 of the process is to notice that we are procrastinating. Now, we've all seen that. We will have seen that. We will know that. We will recognize that we are putting off doing tax returns. That's not a very difficult one to do. And then the next one is to ask why I am not doing those tax returns. Well, for most people, there is nearly always something more important to do, something more exciting, something that's going to make more money more quickly than if we sit there and do a tax return. So step 2, understand what it is that you want. Step 1, accept that you do it. Step 2 is to ask why you are not doing it. And then step 3 is to look at identifying which parts of the equation are the biggest problem for you. Now, all of the parts of the equation, generally speaking, are problems for accountants and bookkeepers that are doing tax returns, but there'll be one part of the equation which really rings true with you, and obviously the low-hanging fruit is what you need to seize. So this is what the equation looks like. I'm going to quickly talk you through it and give you some ideas, if I can, around how you can increase it. But as I say, there's a whole hour on this, and there's all sorts of ideas and a whole slide deck and all the rest of it, so we can go into it in a lot more detail. So the first one is expectancy. And Andrew, it will be on Audible, and there's another idea I've got as well, which I can share about Spotify. But yeah, it's on Audible. As I say, it's quite a detailed thing, and I've had to think about it quite a bit in order to convert it over into tax returns. But yes, it's on Audible. Anyway, so the first one is expectancy. Okay, now this works in 2 ways from a tax return perspective. One is your client's expectations of you and whether you are capable of doing it. And we can argue that, well, they wouldn't have appointed us, they wouldn't have been paying us if they didn't think we was capable of doing it. But the second way is what you expect of them and they expect of you with regards to service standards. Now, if you have an expectation that a client's not going to deliver the records to you until the 29th of January, you know what you're going to get, don't you? You know you're going to get them delivered on the 29th of January. If your client expects you not to contact them until December in order to get the information, that's what they're going to get. You're going to get that. They're going to expect that, and that's what they're going to see. So what we need to do is change your expectancy of your customers and your customers' expectancy of you. Now, there are ways you can do that around basis of relationship and standards, standard reporting, standard service agreements and things like that. So if you're writing to a client asking them for the information, the client might be sitting there going, oh, well, I can give them the information, but it might sit on their desk for 6 months because it's not going to be filed until the 31st of January, and therefore they don't bother about doing it. However, if the communication that you're sending out to the client says, when you send your tax return to us or tax return information to us by the 2nd of May, we will return it by the 14th of May, and you'll have clarity around your second payments on account due on the 31st of January, all of a sudden the communication has been elevated and their expectancy of you and your expectancy of them has got total clarity, and therefore they are much more likely to deliver the information. So that's expectancy. Next up is the value that they receive. If you're talking about a customer, the value that they receive around the tax return being completed earlier. So I've already mentioned one, clarity around self-assessment tax payments on account on the 31st of July, the ability to reduce those payments so they don't overpay. Yeah, the fact that they can smooth out their cash flow programming or cash flow forecast, so they've saved the money, etc., etc. Or they might look to increase pension contributions or something like that, so they can plan. So there's an increase in value to them. That's a reasonably easy one to share. However, getting the tax returns done more early for you, we know what the value is. Intrinsically, we know what the value is in that we don't have to run around like idiots in December and January. We can have a nice Christmas off, etc., etc. But that value is a long way away. Yeah, it's a long way away. So it's months away, and therefore it doesn't have any sort of intrinsic, tangible value now. But one of the ways that you can increase the value is if you give yourself a little treat. So we file 10 tax returns, we go to a spa, or we file 10 tax returns and we have a chocolate bar, or whatever it is. So you can increase the immediacy of the value. And you can also obviously increase that value to the team and the team getting it done. So we need to educate the customer. Another way of doing it with a customer is to reduce their bill, so they get some value if we reduce their bill because they've done it earlier, or you get more value if you price correctly or more appropriately for the client, and therefore you earn more money, receive more value when you get the work done. So they're the top two. We need to increase the expectancy and increase the value. On the bottom line are two numbers that we need to be reducing. The first one being impulsiveness. Now, impulsiveness talks about the distractions. So I've got a tax return to do. However, the washing up needs doing, the washing needs doing, this very exciting money laundering thing needs doing, or whatever. Yeah, so there's all these different distractions that you've got. Impulsiveness or reducing impulsiveness removes those distractions. And again, I've got some ideas. There's some stuff that we're going to be doing within the Bounce community, within the Tax Return Commitment Club, to reduce that impulsiveness, i.e. removing those distractions in order to give you time each week in order to be delivering on your Tax Return Commitment Club promise. And then the final aspect of the delay, of the equation is the delay. And it's like, January, it's miles away. Yeah. What can we do in order to bring it closer to us, one of which, one of many, is this. So you can see by the 11th of April, it's probably not in focus, but by the 11th of April, you have got to have done 11% of your tax returns. And we're going to be sharing it, and I'm going to be nagging you, and we're going to have surveys within the Bounce community, the Tax Return Commitment Club community, and the wider community. So even if you don't join, we'll be sharing those numbers and helping you get there with it. So that's the tax return commitment. Sorry, that's the procrastination equation. And as I say, as a part of the Tax Return Commitment Club, we are going to be looking at one of the first things we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at ways that we can increase the top line and reduce the bottom line. Games is another. There's a whole session on games and how you can create fun for both you, your customers, and your team members. So once we've worked out how to increase the top and reduce the bottom, we are then going to do something to fix the problem. And one of the things, my suggestions to you is that you join Tax Return Commitment Club, and you're going to have a choice to make in a little while. You join the Tax Return Commitment Club, and as a result of that, we can start focusing on the problems that you've got. So the first meeting of the formal Tax Return Commitment Club, if you like, is on the 22nd of April, and we're going to spend a whole session on the procrastination equation. As I said, what we can do to increase expectancy and value and reduce impulsiveness and delay. So there's going to be a whole session on that. And as a part of the Tax Return Commitment Club, if you're in a full member of that, then you'll get access to Coach Accountable, and you put the actions into Coach Accountable. We'll nag you to make sure they get done. Next up, we're going to look at systems. Okay, so I will share the Greenstone systems with you, the processes that we go through, as I say, the templates, the language patterns that we use, the scripts, the checklists that we use, the letter that we send out, the doomsday letter that we send out, and then the confidence that we have around the doomsday letter and what we don't do and what we do, the discounting process and all the rest of it. So again, there's a whole hour around talking people through that, and then the content as well. On the 14th of June, we're going to, again, a whole session around getting records in and how you can get information from your customer. There's also, again, all sorts of stuff, language patterns, as I say, making appointments, taking final responsibility, asking for permission to speak. There's a whole world of stuff in that hour. One of the things, or one of the biggest successes that we've had with this of recent times is Keith Lesser. And you've probably seen the video. If you've not seen the video, let me know, and we'll share the link, or pop it in the WhatsApp group or the Facebook group, and we will share the link. Keith installed WhatsApp for Business. It was October of last year, if I remember rightly, and he WhatsApped people what it was, the tax return information that they was missing, and the response rates were phenomenal for him. He got it. So again, December and January had very little to do because people found it far easier to respond to the WhatsApp message rather than an email that's potentially on the computer or on the phone that they can't respond to. But WhatsApp messaging gets a much quicker response. So if you're not using WhatsApp for Business, then that's a definite action on your list. And in the video, Keith talks you through how he installed WhatsApp for Business and what he uses it and how he uses it with his team. But again, we'll go into that in a lot more detail on the 14th of June. But if you want the video, let me know and I'll gladly send it out to you. In July, we're going to look at how we can automate all of these processes, the software that we can use. So if you've not got Pixie or Client Engager that will do the automatic chasing for you, then there's a number of other systems that are out there that will enable you to do that. And there is other software as well that will help you prepare landlord statements and landlord tax returns and stuff like that. We're going to go through that. In August, we're going to look at games that you can play both with your customers and your team. And then in September, we're going to be looking at the Doomsday letter, and Doomsday is coming. And the reason why we're doing it in September is because we want customers to have sufficient time to deliver the information to you in order for you to send them their tax return for signature by the 30th of November. So it'll be the beginning of September to allow you 2 or 3 weeks in order to get it out with those deadlines, so the customers know that if it's not delivered by whatever date you choose, 31st of October for argument's sake, if it's not delivered by that date, then it's not going to get done by the 30th of September. And then there's the penalty clauses and the extra because you've got to pay overtime and all the rest of it, if that's what they want to choose to do. We've got all the other stuff to do before we get there. So there needs to be some urgency around that around that communication, because if there's no urgency, then they're just going to put it to one side and ignore it. And what do we do when we put stuff to one side and ignore it? We forget about it. And as I say, we're going to create this um, game energy around hopefully the tax return commitment club members hitting that 90% by the 30th of November, and be able to demonstrate how much better it is by going through the processes that we are working with. And as I say, you'll see lots of it, but we're not going to leave anybody behind. So what's the difference between being in the community and part of the tax return commitment club, rather than being in the bounce community and being a part of the full tax return commitment club? Well, I'm going to share very briefly with you now what the difference is between the two, and then I'm going to go on and talk to you about what's included within bounce and what you get as to become a member of bounce, and how that all works. Susan just asked a question in the Q&A box. How can we address objection from clients, but they always send their info to you in December and January? Yep. So it's very easy, Susan. If you ever have a question or a thing back from a client that says, well, we always send it in December and January, and you can apologize, say, I'm very sorry that's where it's been previously. In my world now, I don't believe that service delivery is good enough for you. And in order to you to plan your tax, make sure that you're in control, understand your tax liabilities, understand your numbers, blah, 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 we want to do it now. Yeah. So it was our fault that it's happened previously like that. We want to deliver a better service to you, help you understand your numbers. So we want to do it now. That makes sense, doesn't it? And nobody's going to go, no, I want you to tell me what the tax is on the last day of the year, because I like running around on the last day of the year and paying the tax. So take responsibility for it, accept responsibility for it, communicate the benefits with a client, and then ask them if that makes sense. And if they say no, then they're probably a bye-bye client. But that's the way we go with that, Susan. And as I say, there'll be lots of that within the systems session that we're going to share. I think that's the second or the third one in. So what do we get? The difference between the two? Well, a monthly league table. We are going to have a monthly league table of members outside of the community, outside of the Tax Return Commitment Club, and the bounce members within the Tax Return Commitment Club. We did this in COVID, when we was doing in COVID, and just the fact that people was conscious of it and people was aware of it every month meant that the numbers naturally went up. So both sets of community get the league table. It's not working now all of a sudden. Both sets get the league table. If you are a member of Bounce, you will have got your tax return commitment club progress chart. And as I said, I'm sure there's 5 or 6 upstairs that we've got spare. So if you join today, Mark will pop in the chat box the link to join. If you join Bounce today, there's a secret little code as well, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. If you join Bounce today, then we'll make sure you get one of those. Greenstones resources. As a member, you get access to all the Greenstones resources that we use to chase tax returns. You'll definitely get that within the community. I can't deliver that. Shared resources. So the members swap resources within Bounce. We encourage it. We ask for it. We promote it, etc., etc. Within the Facebook group and the WhatsApp group, sometimes people would share it. We're not in a position to be able to go to those groups and say, yes, you need to be sharing, etc., etc. But within part of the values of Bounce, part of the values of being in that community is that we share stuff, we help stuff, we inspire, challenge, and support each other to be the very best we want to be. Within Bounce, you get access to me and Mark, so I can share my ideas and get on a rant and gob off and all the rest of it. We can do that to a degree within the Facebook groups and the WhatsApp group, but obviously people that are paying us money tend to take preference over people that are not paying us money. Within Bounce, you'll get the procrastination meeting, you'll get the systems meeting that I've talked about, the getting the records in meeting, the automation meeting, the games meeting, doomsday meeting, and then we'll get 2 more what we're calling community support meetings. So by the time you get to September and October, there'll be challenges that people are having. Generally speaking, what we do is we leave the most difficult tax returns to the end, and you might have some technical queries that you need to ask or share or look into. So those meetings, there's a lot less content. There'll be some content, but there's a lot less content from me, and it's more about how we can work and share each other, and how we can help support each other in those final stages, if you like, the final furloughs of getting those tax returns over the deadline. So as a Bounce member, you will get all of that little lot. Peer support massively within Bounce. As I say, it's encouraged. There's a WhatsApp group. There's stuff being asked all the time. There's stuff being shared all the time. Within the community, it happens. But because there's less trust, less vulnerability, less engagement, if you like, it's limited. There's a WhatsApp group. So there'll be stuff going in the WhatsApp group constantly. Obviously, if you're in the community, there's the main WhatsApp group. Not if you're in the Facebook group, but there's the main WhatsApp group. But because there's lots of stuff going on in there, there's 300 and some odd members there. That tends to scroll off. And people tend to get lost in there. Accountability check-in within Bounce, we're going to do it weekly, so it will be a constant thing. So have you done your 2.6% or whatever it is for this week in order to keep you progressing on? Within the community, we're going to promise to do it. As I said, we're not going to leave anybody behind. We want you to progress, but it will be a monthly thing rather than a weekly thing. And then within the community, within the Bounce community, we are going to have certificates of completion. We're going to have celebrations, and we're going to make the thing more enjoyable. It's going to be a journey for us to go on rather than a chore to do at the end of next year. I'm going to have to take that off because that's just playing up on my neck, and I'm going out later, so I don't want a red mark around my neck. But anyway, so that's the difference between the two. So if you're in Bounce, you're going to get all of that. If you're not in Bounce, then you're going to get some of it, and it's going to be limited. So how do you join Bounce, and what's Bounce all about if you've not come across Bounce before? Well, there's going to be a special offer at the end. Bounce is £245 a month, and at the end of today's session, when Mark pops the link in the chat box, which you can do now if he wants to, when you go to it, you'll see that there's a special discounted price for the first month if you join today. And I'm going to tell you how it all works. There's no notice periods, no commitments, no terms or anything like that. So you can join today. Bounce is all about, that's a very young picture of me, but Bounce is all about the value and quality of any event, training, webinar, or course can only be determined by the action you take after it. And Bounce is all about taking action. As you see in a minute, I'll be sharing our stats. We measure the action that's being taken. We're going to be sharing those stats in order for you to make the progress. It's all very well coming along to today and listening and saying, oh yeah, I think that's a good idea, but I'm not going to do anything with it. If you don't do anything with it, if you don't take any action, then it's just a waste of time coming along today. And that action doesn't have to be with us. I'd love you to take action on your own as well. Just do something. And as a result of being here today, you're going to have effectively two choices. You can consciously do nothing. Okay, so decide I'm not going to join Bounce, but I am going to do other stuff. Yeah, I'm going to put the meetings in the diary, and I've taken a screenshot, and I know it's now 11% and 22% and all the rest of it, and I'm going to track my numbers and fill in the spreadsheet. Delighted with that. So you can consciously do nothing, consciously do that, or you can consciously do something. And as I say, my argument today would be that you would be best placed. In fact, it's a no-brainer when I go through the process. You would be best placed in order to join Bounce. So here's how it works. As I say, it's a community to inspire, challenge, and support each other to be the very best that we want to be. That's the part, is the culture, the purpose, the philosophy is what I am passionate about. It's about peer-to-peer support, but from a place of challenging what you believe your problems are, what you believe the solutions to those problems are, so together we can grow. And it's about asking questions, it's about learning, it's about making mistakes, it's about discoveries, and it's about, as I say, it's about growing together as a community. So how do we do that? Well, there's a whole host of stuff that we deliver that I'm going to briefly go through with you now, one of which obviously is a tax return commitment club. But it is about, as I say, it's about the community. And one of the things that we've got is a separate Bounce WhatsApp group. So you might be a member of the big WhatsApp group. As I say, I think there's 247 people in there at the moment. But within Bounce, you have a separate private WhatsApp group, which Mark, I, and Michelle are members of. And I can contribute. We contribute to those groups, to that WhatsApp group. And because it's a smaller number of participants, the conversation is more intimate, more vulnerable, it's more trusting, and therefore, in my opinion, is much, much more powerful, but you have to be a part of that. Don't, if you're in the main group and you think, oh God, it's all overwhelming, there's all these messages go through, the Bounce WhatsApp group is not like that. So that's the WhatsApp group. As I've already said, you get access to the systems. You get access to Greenstone systems when you're a member of Bounce. So every month we produce a system. I produce a system. I share it with you. This month we've just done the client accounting records grading system. So you can grade your client's accounting records and then work out what you're going to charge them based on that client grading. I love the fact that people take action. So if I've got something that you want and you ask for it, it's almost impossible for me to resist giving it to you. So effectively anything that I've got already at Greenstones, you can have if it helps you, as long as you implement it. I hate it if people ask for stuff and then I give it them and then they do nothing with it. And you can also, obviously within the Bounce community, you can get access to other member systems. So sometimes people come on. There was one a couple of weeks ago off the back of the budget where people was asking about a tax calculator in order to work out whether it is better to pay dividends or pay salary. I hadn't done that for Greenstones. We hadn't done that for Greenstones. So the members shared one that they'd created and it got checked, so it was right, and all the rest of it. It's wonderful. So access to the Greenstone systems as well as access to other member systems. Obviously I can't promise the other member systems because I'm not in control of that, but I can promise access to the Greenstone systems as you want them. We've then got the Socks Up surgery. Happens every month, which basically is your opportunity to ask me questions. The questions are pre-submitted and also asked live, and I will share my wisdom, for want of a better word, around how to solve those problems. Sometimes people come with solutions and we have to look at the problems before we come to the solutions. And obviously all the members that are on the call as well, they get an opportunity to contribute into the chat box and they share their experiences and how it might be slightly differently, and how they can contribute. And eventually you go away and you've had your solution solved. All of those sessions are recorded and they are all in the Coach Accountable vault. So when you join today, you'll get access to all of them. They go back to June. They're all indexed and there's stuff in there about key performance indicators, appraisal systems, price increases, etc., etc. There's a whole wealth of information in there. So you get all the recordings and obviously access to the ones going forward. And as I've just mentioned, they're in Coach Accountable, which again is a piece of software that you get access to, which enables us to monitor the actions that you are taking, help support you take those actions, and ultimately celebrate the fact that you are taking those actions. Now, the software looks a bit like this. This is a dummy account that I've got set up. So it's like a to-do list, and you can categorize them into projects. You put the actions in. We get notified that you've put the action in, and then you go in and you tick them off once you've done them, and we get notified that you have completed them. And last Thursday, when I went in, last Thursday, the 14th, must be Monday perhaps, or whatever the 14th of March was, I went in and extracted the data. The members of Bounce this year, so from the 1st of April, the 1st of January up until the 14th of March this year, they've already completed 324 actions. So they were actions that have been set and have been completed. And as you'll see on the list, we've got Ashley leading the way at the moment. She's completed 102 actions since the 1st of April. We've got Lucy at 48, Carly at 27, Susan at 24, Martine at 18, Marlies at 15, and Sharon at 15. So even Sharon at 15 in the first 2.5 months has effectively done 7 actions a month, 6 actions a month, roughly. So 1.5 a week. And this is stuff that they're doing. These are actions that they're taking in order to improve their practice. It's not stuff like send the client a bill, advise a client on CGT or stuff like that. It's stuff that they are learning, stuff that they're developing, discovering, sharing with each other, that they think that's a good idea, I need to implement that into practice. And then it goes into Coach Accountable, they think we get nagged, gets ticked off, and away we go. We celebrate. So it's fantastic. It's a really, really, I get very excited about Coach Accountable, as you can see. So at the end of the month, you can look back and go, this is what I've done. Yeah. Rather than sitting there thinking I've achieved nothing, this is what I've done. This is how I've been successful, and away we go. The next thing that you get is access to what we call our Connect events. So 4 times a year, we have an event. At the moment, they're being held in Kettering Park Hotel. And as a Bounce member, you can come along. So the cheapest you can come along if you're not a Bounce member is 195 quid. So £800 a year saving on the Connect events just by being a Bounce member. The next event, as I've already shared with you, is on the 25th of June. Is about knowing your numbers, so about key performance indicators, how you can measure them yourself, what you measure, systems that you put in place in order to measure them, how you can help your customers do that and charge them for the privilege, and as I say, about how you can communicate those numbers and the language that you can use with them as well. The one after that is in September. That's called Level Up. It's all about proper, what I will call proper advisory services. So stuff that you can do without, you don't need any software or anything like that. You already know how to do it. It's just a question of how you're communicating it. And it's going to be about how you can deliver advisory services and charge for those advisory services. And then in December, the last session of the year is around it's called Mind Your Language, Simon. So I'm fascinated about language that we use externally and internally, and how you can correct and change that language in order to make yourself and your customers and your team much more productive. So they're the next sessions. I've got a question from Tracy. Typically, how large are the practices that join Bounce? I'm on my own, to give you an idea, no team, but nearing capacity. Tracy, from zero, from very, very low GRF, I won't share the number, but so from no team members, very low GRF, and then the biggest practice that we got in there at the moment is just got 18 team members. The majority are in the 2 to 5 team member bracket. But there are quite a few that haven't got any team members at all, but have been going 2 or 3 years, and as they're at your capacity type level. But size, and I know I'm going to say this, but size doesn't matter, and I'm going to share with you a little while why that is, because our contribution is our ability to think and ask questions around a problem, not ego-based, I've done this and I've done that type scenario. It's not about how good we are, it's about how we can contribute and what we can take from them. And as Ashley and Mark and Kay are putting the things in there. Kay, about the events being, the events are certifiable, Kay, so you do get CPD for them. There's a certificate and all the rest of it comes out. So I think it's 6 hours for each event. So that's whatever that is, 6 times. That's 24 hours of it already there. But anyway, yes, so it's all CPD certifiable. It's a quick testimonial here from Jem. So a whirlwind of information. I learned so much in such a quick time. Simon is a force of nature when he's on a roll. Feel very much on a roll today. My business feels like it has turned another corner today. And it's about, it's about the content. It's about the application of the content. It's about doing something with it rather than coming along. We have a nice time. We have a glass of wine and we have a bit of dinner and a cup of coffee and a nice chat and all the rest of it. But it's about implementing. It's about doing stuff rather than just, as I say, coming along and having a nice time. So that's your lot. You've got your community. You've got your event tickets. You've got the systems from Greenstones, you've got the surgery, you've got the tax return commitment club, etc., etc. The whole world of stuff. Now, if you wanted to work with me on a one-to-one basis, you're looking to pay somewhere between 12 and 18k a year, depending on how many days you want. I've got 2 customers now paying more than the £18,000 a year, but that gives you a bit of a flavour. And as I say, I can't help myself. Part of the thing is that I don't contribute too much, but I can't help myself. If somebody's got a problem that I can help them make progress with, I've got to get in there. I've got to help them deliver. Bounce membership is £245 per month, and it comes along with 100% money back guarantee. There is no minimum contract, so you can join today, pay your 245 quid. Don't like it, I'll give you 245 quid back. You can join today. You can be a member for the month. You can go into Coach Accountable, see how it works. You can watch all the surgeries. You can look at all the resources. You can do what you like, and then you can leave before you pay the next 245 quid. Obviously, I don't like that. That's not, it doesn't feel right to me. But if that's what you want to do, if 245 quid investment gives you all of that stuff and then you leave, you're not tied in for 12 months or anything like that, and there is no notice period, so you don't have to give me 3 months notice to leave. There's no automatically reoccurring 12-month contract or anything like that. So normally it's £245 per month, 100% money back guarantee, no minimum contract, and no notice period. Now, there are some objections that most people have when they look to join something like Bounce and start to take action, and I'm going to share some of those with you now. So one of them, the number one, tends to be can't afford it or haven't got time. So what we're going to do going forward, this one is live and you can have this now. We're going to share Mark's 5 Ps to perfect prices. Now, that's a course. It's set up in Thinkific. It retails at £295, I think. So you join Bounce at £245 normally, and you get that course. So you've already saved yourself 50 quid on the course. The sole objective for us is that you go through that course, you generate more than £245 a month, and therefore Bounce becomes free effectively. It's a net income to you because of what you've learned. This is a chap called Michael Wells, went through that course with Mark, and as you'll see, during that course, the process of the course, he identified 85 grand's worth of fees that he wasn't charging, and he had already gone through and generated 23,611. There's an extra 6 in there, 611 pounds worth of annual fees just going through that process. I think that was within 2 weeks of him going through that process, but I wouldn't want to be quoted on that, Michael. I don't know whether Michael's in the room, but if we could ask Michael if it's important to you. This is something that was in the Bounce WhatsApp group. There's a message. This person, who I've not got permission to share their name, but probably they would do. Almost all price increase emails have gone out. Only 2 queries so far. No one has left yet. Did 4 proposals this week, 3 in 1 day. I've then nipped on and said, hello, that's brilliant. How much was it worth, if you don't mind me sharing? It was 7.5 grand. Yeah, so they've gone through that process, and that's 7.5 grand straight onto their bottom line by running the process that Mark shares within that Thinkific course. And that's not 7.5 grand as a one-off. That's 7.5 grand every year. So that's how that works. This is Jeff. As I said to Jeff a minute ago, Jeff did a testimonial. Jeff joined, and what I want to show you, people tend to, when they're talking about testimonials, they tend to share the big stuff. Well, it happens at a smaller scale as well. So as you'll see, we did that in May and generated an extra £250 of income, which all adds up. So 250 quid paid for in a month, paid for his membership of Bounce. So it's possible. Does everybody do it? No. Can we help everybody do it? Wholeheartedly, because I know in my heart of hearts, however small you are, there will be 3 grand's worth of annual fees that is not being charged. You've not increased your prices or whatever. But anyway, I don't want to tell you the whole course. You need to go through the course. Now, you might be thinking that you don't have enough time. Yeah. So number 1 is money. Number 2 is time. So what I've added to Thinkific is Your Clock Unlocked, which is a time management course aimed specifically at accountants that I have created, detailing and listing all of the different things that I do in order for me to be as productive as possible. I think there's 6, 7, 8, there's about 9 different lessons in there, and there's some free resources, some stuff that you can download in order to be able to do it. Again, that's £295. It retails on Thinkific at £295. It's not available yet. I should have had it done today, but I've not quite got there. It will be Monday or Tuesday of next week. So all of the members of Bounce are going to get it. And if you join Bounce, then obviously you will get access to that as well, in order to free up your time. And the idea is save a working week a year. So it's basically to create very, very simply, very quickly, to create you 40 hours of extra time in order for you to be able to implement stuff. So we get your money back. We free up your time in order for you to understand the ideas, in order for you to be able to implement the things that you want to implement within your practice. So that's the second course. And as I say, don't have enough money, then it's the 5Ps. Am I too small? I've already mentioned this when I was talking to Tracy earlier. There is no smallness. It's about your values. It's about your ethics. It's about wanting to inspire, challenge, and support your peers to be the very best that they want to be. And it's about asking questions. It's about looking at problems, finding solutions, sharing best practice, and sharing information. And it doesn't matter whether you're turning over a pen or turning over £1,000,000. There is value. There is value in that. Am I too big? No, I don't think you can be too big. There is a question sometimes as people, depending on where they are in the journey, that they might want to move on to evolution, but very often they go through bounce first before they move on to evolution. But you can't be too big. And then there's the old perennial, I need to do X first. There will always be something to do, and there'll always be something to do first. There's an excuse, basically. It's like, I need to do this before I do this. I need to do this cash flow forecast before I do this tax return. Yeah, it's rubbish. Yeah, there will always be something you need to do first. The only thing that you need to do is have clarity over where it is and what it is that you want to achieve, i.e., something better than I'm currently experiencing. Stick your money where your mouth is. I'll have the commitment of making sure that I deliver the value, the time, and the money, and then away we go. And as I say, zero risk to you. Mark will pop in the chat box again the link. There's a better link than this. If you do that link, then you'll get charged 245 quid. If you click the link that Mark shared, it's a special link that will take you to a discounted code. So instead of paying 245 quid, you'll pay £97 for the first month, and then it will go back up to the 245 quid, which is what everybody pays as a Bounce member. And as I say, there's a 100% money back guarantee. So if you pay it and you get no value, then I will gladly give you the money back. I don't want you walking around saying, I'm paying 245 quid and I didn't get any value. So I'll gladly give you that money back. There is no minimum contract. There is no reoccurring 3-yearly contract or anything like that. And there is no notice period. So that is it. That is how you join Bounce. And that's all the content and all the information that I've got to share with you today. If you've got any questions around Bounce or how it works, you can pop it in the WhatsApp. Pop it in the chat box or pop it on the Q&A, and I'll sit around. I'll put my hat back on, and I'll gladly sit around. And as I say, the clients not submitting tax returns is the biggest complaint, and it's to do with the business for WhatsApp. And I'll gladly share the video as well. So I am going to stop my screen. I can't even say it. Screen share. I've got 3 minutes left on my allotted hour. If anybody has got any questions at all, then please feel free to pop them in the chat box, and I'll gladly answer them, or pop them in the Q&A. I've got lots of messages going through. Caroline says it sounds brilliant. Just joined. Brilliant, Caroline. Excellent. Love it. I can't wait to get started. Tirus, thank you so much. Always great presentation. Susan's fab is Bounce. Bounce is fab. Carly and me, a couple of subcontractors, but mostly just me. That's around the Mark says Bounce is brilliant and more than paid for itself. Mark session on prices, no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. How many people say that? And then I've answered the certificates, and also like the fact that you have Mark and Simon could pick from an accountant and non-accountant. Yeah, Mark's skill set is to look at it from somebody that's outside of the industry, whereas I can get sucked into, well, that's what it's been like for the last 27 years. Mark doesn't take that. So let me just nip down the bottom. Laura's saying thank you, and I've not got any questions in the Q&A box, so that just leaves me to say, I've broken my elastic. I like that. Blow your thing instead. So this is me to say thank you for coming along this morning. I hope whatever you choose to do, whether it's to join Bounce and the full tax return commitment club, or stay in the community and use the tax return commitment club in the thing, is that together over the next 6, 7, 8 months or whatever it is through to the end of November, we can make sure that you can get Christmas off if you want it, and a more relaxing January. And that's my sincere hope. So As I say, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for Mark and Michelle who have been playing in the background with all the stuff. And thank you very much for the members that have shared. Just a brief reminder, if you're a member and you've got one of these, I'd love you to put it on social media to encourage other people to start thinking about the numbers in order to make sure that they are delivering that 90% of tax returns to clients for signature by the 30th of November. Anyway, that's me done. I'm going to stop ranting and say goodbye for now. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.